Welcome back to Whence Came You, a Masonic podcast featuring research papers and discussions related to Freemasonry. Here's your host, Brother Robert Johnson.
All right, welcome back to the program. This is episode 354. In the news this week, I want to tell you that we secured our next thing. Everybody out there was pretty disappointed when we ran out of lapel pins. We have done 625 lapel pins, 50 sets of cufflinks, 50 tie bars, 50 money clips. This time around, I am not sure we're going to do anything else but lapel pins, but we are doing a brand new design. You all are probably familiar. We've talked about it the last few weeks that we updated the website and we have got a little bit more of a contemporary look. Along those lines, we have gone ahead and got a new pin design. That's right, it's a really cool new design. We will unveil it soon, not just yet, but I will tell you that once we have some pictures posted and it'll go out on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, all that good stuff, we'll go ahead and I'll start pre-orders for it as well. For those of you who are interested in getting the first brand new designed WCY podcast pins. Remember, why do we do this? Well, this is a way that we can assist in funding the show because not everybody is into just donating money into a program and not getting something tangible in return. And there's nothing wrong with that. So also it helps show your support of the program. And when you're out there in the world, the Masonic world, and you're wearing that pin and somebody says, hey, what's that? You can tell them about the show. Turn them on to the idea of listener-supported Masonic education. And the greatest part of all is our reach. You guys help us reach more people, and that's more brothers we're impacting and influencing in a positive way and showing them that Masonic education is why we're all here. A big thanks to everybody who already does that with the pins. This week we've got a couple papers, and we also have illustrious Brother Stephen L. Harrison who stops by to give us another wonderful segment of the Masonic Minute. Want to give a big shout out to Masonic Revival. Masonic Revival, Brother Edgar Alejandro has been so generous in assisting us with production of pins and things. It's only right that we thank him publicly. And if you are somebody who likes contemporary Masonic designs and really cool things that are fresh and new, then check out Masonic Revival because what he's done is the exact opposite of what you see out there. He's not taking a square and compass and dropping it on a mug and selling it. So please check out MasonicRevival.com and show him some love because he's helped us out so much. Now, our first piece for the week is interesting, and I've chosen it because the title piqued my interest. It's called The Ohio Masons, and this is significant because I've been to Ohio a few times this year for various Masonic-related events and the upcoming Camp Masonry. What's Camp Masonry? Well, I'll tell you guys all about it in a little bit. But first up, let's get into this piece, The Ohio Masons by Edward J. Lutag, Jr., Past Master. The Ohio Masons. The smells and sounds that permeate the big woods of Pennsylvania in the fall of each year would convince anyone that there had to be a highly intelligent being existing in this world to be able to create such a beautiful place. The leaves of the trees are now in full blazing glory. The squirrels are scampering about gathering food for the winter months ahead. The birds all seem to be practicing for a magnificent concert somewhere, and in the hearts and minds of many men there exists the thought of the upcoming deer hunting season. One begins to hear the plans and designs being formulated in the late summer months. Gatherings of family members becomes a natural event this time of year, so much so that one would think a major holiday was in the making, and to many families this yearly event could be considered the highlight of the year. Because my father is a hunter and a fisherman, not only the men of our family, but also the women experience the excitement of this yearly get-together and play a major role in its planning. The weeks prior to the Thanksgiving holiday are filled with the traditional gatherings at Dad's house on Sundays. My brother, his wife, son, and daughter are the hunters in the family these days. Dad and I simply fish, but the excitement is still the same. Remembering days long gone when the camp Dad had built in the 1940s was filled with men of the family and Dad's best friends, I can still recall those wonderful smells of hunting camp. Bacon and eggs in the morning being cooked by men who were brick and block masons always fascinated me as a young man. I could never understand why food tasted so much better this one time of the year. What is considered junk food these days was always present at the hunting camp. Peanuts of various sorts, potato chips, jerky, sausages of various flavors, all were present in a vast profusion. It is no wonder, then, that fathers and sons looked forward to this yearly event with eager anticipation. At the age of 41, I feel very fortunate to have a father who loved me enough to have given me these wonderful memories to reflect upon. Over the years, as the sons grew into manhood and began the task of raising their own families, the traditional gatherings dwindled to a point where the old campsite sat idle for many years. When my brother encouraged his wife to take up the sport of hunting, the old camp, which had provided my brother and me with such fond memories of hunting seasons gone by, experienced a new awakening. Now that Dad is approaching the twilight years of his life, the time that I spend with him becomes increasingly precious. This man has very carefully provided me with the examples by which to live my own life, to appreciate nature with respect and admiration, to treat your fellow man as you would want to be treated. How wonderful it is for us to be able to look into each other's eyes and without saying a word experience a mutual feeling of love. Is it not understandable how I looked forward to spending a few days with this man at the old camp this particular hunting season? We arrived at camp the day before the rest of the family, so it became our chore to open up and prepare for their arrival. As I put the bass boat away, Dad started the fire. Hunting camps always provide you with that smell which exists nowhere else. Wood burning in the old pot-belly stove always seems to take forever to bring warmth to the old place. Being satisfied the fire would last until we returned from obtaining water. We loaded the old blazer with empty water cans and headed down to the spring near Tionesta Creek. The big woods are so magnificent this time of year that we couldn't help but experience the awe of such a beautiful ride. Having arrived at the spring, we just stood and listened. The sound emanating from the Tionesta Creek to our right, the trickle of pure mountain spring water to our left, the birds singing high above us, and the smell of hemlock all around provided Dad and me with the experience of what heaven must be like. Having filled the containers with water, we loaded the old blazer and headed down the road toward our camp. This area of Forest County is void of camps and quite a few miles from help of any kind. Although one of the most pristine places we know of, it is also one of the most desolate, and if trouble should happen, it would definitely provide one with an unpleasant experience. As we drove along, enjoying the scenery, an approaching vehicle made it necessary for me to use a little power to move the old blazer off the road being quite narrow. Realizing the engine had stalled, I tried to restart it with absolutely no response. Not becoming excited at this point, I coasted as far off the road as possible and parked. Dad and I fiddled around with the various parts of the engine which we thought had malfunctioned, but to no avail. Now was the time for some very serious contemplation. There were a few cars which had passed us, but never stopped to inquire as to our dilemma. At this point we looked at each other, father to son and son to father, and without uttering a word decided that since I was the youngest of the two, the 10-mile walk to the nearest place which could provide help was my responsibility. As I was about to leave my father with the old blazer, 3 individuals from Ohio pulled their vehicle off the road in front of us and asked if they could be of any assistance. Dad and I could have hugged them for their thoughtfulness. As one of the sons of the older gentleman was looking at the engine, we all introduced ourselves and began a conversation which Dad and I will remember for many years to come. As it turned out, these men were father and 2 sons, who also spent time with each other as our family did. Having decided that the old blazer needed repairs beyond our present capabilities, our new friends offered to tow us to one of the neighbor farms. Having arrived at the farm after dark and too late to accomplish anything with regard to the vehicle in tow, these 3 men offered their assistance in driving us back to our camp. It was at this time that I thought I recognized a ring on one of their fingers as being Masonic. My heart began to race, for my father and I were also Masons, and I found myself wondering what wonderful experience this would be if my observation was correct. I kept the observation to myself long after we arrived at camp. Having offered our new friends a bit of refreshment, we began a conversation which revealed to Dad and me that these three men had been hunting the same area of Forest County as we had for approximately the same number of years. They were even familiar with the same local residents. Was this a coincidence, or perhaps an event which the good Lord provided for our mutual benefit? Not being able to contain my excitement about the ring any longer, I finally asked a question which all Masons ask of each other to determine Masonic membership. Lo and behold, my excitement was well founded. Again, Dad and I looked into each other's eyes and experienced that knowledge obtained without uttering a word, and a feeling of love permeated the old camp. How wonderful this experience was! Our friends are Ohio Masons. Dad and I are Pennsylvania Masons. Now, as I reflect back upon the events of last November, I become increasingly proud of being a member of our beloved fraternity. Is it no wonder that we have existed for so many years? No matter what jurisdiction, state, or country each of us calls home, the love, respect, and admiration which exists between Masons will forever bond this fraternity and sustain its presence for all time. The events of the 1990 hunting season went beyond the actual planned purpose, and once again the old hunting camp on German Hill has provided me with memories which I will be able to reflect upon when I enter the twilight years of my own life. A poem. A mile with me. Oh, who will walk a mile with me along life's merry way? A comrade blithe and full of glee, who dares to laugh out loud and free, and let his frolic fancy play like a happy child through the flowers gay that fill the field and fringe the way, where he walks a mile with me. And who will walk a mile with me along life's weary way? A friend whose heart has eyes to see the stars shine out o'er the darkening lea, and the quiet rest at the end of the day. A friend who knows and dares to say the brave sweet words that cheer the way, where he walks a mile with me. With such a comrade, such a friend, I fain would walk till journey's end, through summer sunshine, wind, rain, and then farewell, we shall meet again. By Henry Van Dyke. Brother Edward Lutag Jr. is a past master of Plum Creek Samuel Hamilton Lodge, 799 of Plumboro, Pennsylvania.
A fraternity like the Freemasons that performs so many charitable acts is bound to be the target of fraud. Those impersonating Masons for financial gain, and those appealing to Masonic charities under false pretenses have been around almost as long as the order itself. Today, with the internet and mass media, word can spread quickly when a charlatan surfaces. In times past, such communication was slower and more difficult. In 1859, Rob Morris, founder of the Eastern Star, published the Prudence Book. Updated annually, it was an attempt to publish information about imposters, but was discontinued after a short run. It was found easier to print and distribute broadsides as lodges discovered imposters. Here's an example of one notice warning lodges of an impostor from the 19th century. It reads, "Caution! Masonic Lodge of Relief, Masonic Temple, Baltimore, July 24, 1877. A man calling himself Herbert Sidney, professing to hail from Langhorne Lodge, Stratford, Essex, England, is an impostor. Information has been received from Langhorne Lodge that no such person is known there. Description: height about 5 feet 6 or 7 inches, complexion dark, black hair and eyes, bald patch on top of head, hair somewhat thin, black mustache. Professes to be a portrait painter and ruined by the fire at St. John's, Canada in June 1876. Reports from Masonic Lodge at St. John's say that no portrait painter of that name ever lived there. But there had been one named Sidney Herbert Gadsden. The fraternity is hereby warned against this person and is furthermore advised to have him arrested, if possible, for obtaining or attempting to obtain money under false pretenses. He was in Baltimore about a month ago and succeeded in swindling the fraternity to a small extent. He then went to Washington, D.C. He is believed to be now tramping about, victimizing Masonic lodges and the St. George's societies. Albert Lyman, M.D., Secretary. Even with the instant communication we have today, we can still encounter such deception. And I might add, that can work both ways. The internet isn't exactly a fraud-free zone. I haven't heard many cases of men running around posing as Freemasons these days. There are, however, other forms of deception. How many times have I heard the almoner in my Scottish Rite Valley say, "I denied the request for assistance. I'm certain it was fraudulent." Keep on your toes, brothers, and guard the gates. For the Whence Came You podcast, this is Steve Harrison with the Masonic Minute.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that first paper and that great segment by illustrious brother Stephen L. Harrison. If you enjoy that kind of thing, I know we all do, please head on over to wcypodcast.com and hover over More, and then click on the bookstore. And once you're on the bookstore, you'll check out the many books by the brothers who have been on the program, including books by Stephen L. Harrison, whether that's Freemasonry Crosses the Mississippi, Freemasons, Tales from the Craft, or the Oak Island book, or the Memoranda of Billon. These are all wonderful books, and he's got more on the way, so keep an eye out for those. And if you happen to come upon Steve, give him a handshake and tell him thanks for all he does, because it does take a considerable effort to put these together for us every other week. So, Brother Steve, thank you so much. So, Ohio Masons. I said I would talk a little bit about that just around the corner in August. We've got something coming up that is absolutely unique. Camp Masonry 2018. It's a weekend for Master Masons. They have the ability to kind of customize your experience. You can get a weekend pass or you can buy a day pass. But there's a great list of speakers. If you go to campmasonry.com, you can pull up the schedule. It goes Friday and Saturday, both days, and rolls till midnight. So we wake up Saturday morning and we head home on Sundays, what I'm assuming. But it starts off Friday at noon. We have some time to explore, set up camp. There's social time. We'll reconvene around 4:45. There's some great things going on, like the exploring of Mackey's Encyclopedia. There's electives that go on, so there's some volunteer things. There's DeMolay will be there. They'll be doing an initiation degree in the DeMolay Ceremony of Light. Then we'll have dinner at about 7 o'clock, and then at 8:15 on Friday night, I'll go on and I'll be doing a presentation called Esoterics 101. It's part one of our Quantum Series lectures here at the Raymer Cabin. And again, this is all about the beginning concepts of the deeper aspects of Freemasonry. So we're going to breaching the merger of science and mysticism. It'll be really fun. 9:15 we'll take a break. Then they're going to put on a Mark Master degree at 9:30, an outdoor movie screening of Terra Masonica. Take a break, and 11:45 at night, a social going off into midnight. You got to remember, guys, there are so many brothers at this thing. It's really incredible. You're not going to be bored. Saturday morning starts off at 8:30 in the morning with breakfast. There's a social. We have the Master Mason first section. There'll be lunch. Brother Jason Bryce is doing something on symbolism in the letter G. They're going to be putting on the grotto degrees. Right Worshipful Brother Dan Hrinko is doing education of the new brothers, shaping the future of our craft. That'll be really cool. That's happening at around 2 o'clock. Dave Bacon. You guys love Dave Bacon. Everybody loves Dave Bacon. He's the coolest. So we've got Dave Bacon. He's doing a presentation on symbolism, how the experience shapes perception. So it's going to be really awesome. Brother Harry Weaver III will be doing a presentation called Bogus Masonry. And we've got William Bill Carter doing a piece. He is the junior Grand Deacon, and he'll be doing Hazard in Hand. And then 6:15 on Saturday night, I'll be doing the follow-up. I'll be doing the presentation on the Lost Word. That's the Tetragrammaton. is part 2 of the quantum lectures, and I'll explain what that means, the quantum lectures, during the series, but I hope you guys come out. They're going to be doing a few more presentations after mine. There'll be a table lodge starting at 7:30, and the Master Mason degree second section lectures and charge is starting at 9:30 at night. It's going to be so cool. I really can't tell you guys what this is going to be like. I've never been. I'm really excited to go. And again, a unique Masonic retreat, a Master Masons only, and it looks to be just like so much fun. So I really hope to see a lot of guys there. I'm hoping that Brother Mike Hambrick will be able to make it as well, but they have some really great prices on everything. And if you're really just looking to go one day, they've got some great things for that too. You can kind of customize your experience. Again, I like the way they put it out. Choose your own adventure. And it says all full weekend ticket packages on sale until May 1st. Yep, hope to see you guys there. It should be really amazing. And that's campmasonry.com. The next piece I have for you this week is called Universal Challenges. And this is part of a short talk bulletin. In October 1985, Most Worshipful Brother Jürgen Holtroff completed his 9th and final year as Grand Master of the United Grand Lodge of Germany, Brotherhood of German Freemasons. From his Grand Master's report, we have extracted portions of particular interest for use in this short talk bulletin. The English translation has been made by K.W. Brother Jess Minlin, past Grand Master, Grand Secretary of the American Canadian Grand Lodge. Before we devote ourselves to the problem of the present in view of the future, let us look to the past. It is exactly half a century ago, this year, that the light of Masonry in our fatherland was forcibly extinguished. In 1935, under pressure of the Nazi power clique, one lodge after another was forced to close. Freemasonry was banned. I know that many lodges have brought this event to the attention of their brethren and to the general public. I regard this as especially important in particular because it occurs in conjunction with the current commemoration of the German capitulation 40 years ago this year, and to some extent there have been wholly inadequate analyses undertaken regarding these years of oppression and the actual situation of the German people. On November 30th, 1984, in Wiesbaden, I gave a public address at a jointly sponsored commemoration ceremony hosted by lodges Plato zur Bestandigen, Einnigt, Mozart, zur Liebe und zur Pflicht, Luftbruch, and Humanitas zu den Dreilerlin. The common commemorative ceremony received heavy press coverage and was attended by some 200 guests, among them the President of the Hessen State Parliament and ex-Lord Mayor George Buch, Bundestag member and ex-Lord Mayor Rudi Schmidt, representatives of the 3 political parties composing the City Council, representatives of the President, Protestant and Catholic churches, the Grand Master of the ACGL, Brother Marlon Westenberg, and the District Master of Hessen, Grand Lodge AF&AM VD, Horst Vetters. In my address, I traced the curve, beginning with the original bans against Masonry shortly after the establishment of the first lodges through the excesses of the persecution of Freemasonry by the Third Reich, down to the contemporary journalistic attacks and so-called declarations of incompatibility. I clearly pointed out that the current trend to less tolerance within our contemporary society will, if the forces of freedom fail to take the offensive and aggressively defend those free areas of self-expression and self-development, in the final analysis constitute a threat to the freedom, integrity, and right of choice for humans. I also stressed that we ourselves must express our goals much more clearly and explicitly, as we have nothing to hide. We are a society which actively promotes interpersonal understanding, compromise, and peace within society. I am convinced that our lodges will also pursue the events of 50 years ago in their own areas to ensure that a conscious awareness is ever present that where the light of Masonry is forcibly extinguished, civil freedom becomes a thing of the past. At a joint communication of the 5 lodges in Hamburg on June 6 this year, hosted by Lodge Ferdinand Zumfelsen, in my talk I again referred to the minutes of the Dissolution Convent of July 30th, 1935. With 3 Gestapo agents present, the Brethren of Hamburg, presided over by Richard Brose, the last Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Hamburg, enacted their own orderly dissolution with pride and dignity. They recounted the history of Freemasonry, and they extinguished the lights, true to custom, closing with prayer, which included the following words, quote, "We now return the working tools to your hands. Those tools we and our predecessors used for almost 200 years in working on our spiritual edifice in your honor, not because we have become weary of our service around the pillars of wisdom, strength, and beauty, but because of the demands of our government. With full hearts we thank you for the endless consecrated and elevating hours we were privileged to experience in this place, and the light which continued to illuminate there from into our family and professional lives, and also brought comfort, joy, and blessings to those outside our circle. A deep and painless sadness now descends upon us. Give us strength to carry on with dignity and perseverance." End quote. In recent times, more often than not, one could read something contemptible on the subject of Freemasonry and National Socialism. Certainly, in the elaboration of the past, there remains also for us much to be done. In my own study of the events of 50 years ago, it became quite clear to me that while many became unfaithful, a multitude of brethren accepted the inevitable with courage, bearing an unbroken pride. Let us honor their memory now with a moment of silence. We remember these brethren who, 50 years ago, because of their loyalty to our fraternity, suffered difficulties and persecution, those who emigrated, either domestically or to foreign shores, or later joined the forces of resistance to the regime of terror. We remember the many silent ones throughout the land who remained faithful to themselves and to their good cause. We remember those whose vocations and professions were denied them, whose possessions and even their very lives were sacrificed. As a representative of the many, let us honor the name of Wilhelm Leuschner, the man of resistance, a member of the Lodge Johannes der Evangelist zur Eintracht in Darmstadt, who was murdered by the National Socialists on September 29, 1944. Great tasks that demand our utmost efforts lie before us. As an example, the solicitation for members. I know that many of you shy away at the very mention of this term. Freemasons don't solicit. There are simply too few Masons in the Federal Republic of Germany, and I believe we can no longer permit that attitude to prevail. And it is a fact, as our American brethren stated at the Grand Masters Conference this past February, quote, "That which stops growing begins to die." I want to instill in you, my brethren, the courage to tread new paths and to mobilize your lodge brothers for a monumental task of achieving a genuine and decisive increase in membership in the future. I would like to remind you of a survey made some 20 years ago, which revealed that in the age bracket of its greatest interest to us, men 25 to 40 years old, only 6% admitted having a definitive positive opinion of Freemasonry. Only 6% viewed positively that meant potential 250,000 men. As a result, also 20 years ago, in the Bruderschaft magazine, one of our own younger brethren called for us to grasp the information as a mandate. The significance and importance of an association is, after all, determined by the number of supporting members. We love to use the phrase quality is more important than quantity. If we are capable of an honest self-criticism, we can only arrive at the conclusion that we are not blessed with any great amount of either quality or quantity. Of course, we have brethren of superb quality in our ranks, but there's too few of them. How else can we explain that over the last few years so many of just average leadership capability have come along? We must exert every effort in the future to attract a greater number of men to our ranks who possess those qualities we desire for ourselves. However, this is no easy task. It requires fortitude and the ability to conquer our own comfortable indolence. Naturally, membership increase as an all-end in itself cannot be fulfilling. It must be paced by a process of greatly increased education and training of our members. For brothers prepared to undertake this responsibility, and not just for them alone, Masonic tutoring holds no taboos. We must also intensify our capacity and readiness to effect internal reforms. A dedication to traditional form of the courage to tackle reform are not mutually excluding. Each is dependent upon the other. For a Mason, prescribed or due form as the vessel containing our intellectual heritage is something indispensable. In its 250-year history, our brotherhood has repeatedly demonstrated its capacity to rediscover and define the original essence, the truth and purity of its rituals and symbols. Even then, when the specter of past hypertrophy, that deeply ingrained overgrowth of false, misunderstood concepts as to what constituted tradition was carried along as a ballast, an overly uncritical retention of long obsolete portions of our usage, those which are no longer believable and have long since been devoid of real meaning. As an example, the rather bombastically formulated, horrifying penalties constitute a considerable hindrance in respect of our attempts to defend ourselves from critical attacks. Custom and ritual are matters of exclusive concern to our partner Grand Lodges. However, as Grand Master representing our entire jurisdiction, I want to provide the impulse in a view of the urgency of the questions we are increasingly being confronted with. We ourselves must be confident of our subject matter, that we may represent our precious customs with inner conviction. Great challenges lie before us. Our most important mission in the future, as far as our intellectual work is concerned, I envision in the form of a quote-unquote new enlightenment. Here too, as part of this outlook, I want to provide a final impulse. Humanity at present finds itself in the midst of a tremendous transition. The belief in progress for its own sake has widely yielded to considerable doubt. New anxieties have elicited new intolerance. Man is uncertain of himself. In the media, we can read the question, quote, is Homo sapien faced with extinction due to the excess of his brain, just as the saber-toothed tiger once arrived at an evolutionary dead end? In the commentary columns of leading weekly papers, we run into such headlines as "The Enlightenment dismisses its children," or "Intellect is the real insanity." The menace of atomic destruction is whiplashed as being a direct result of the Enlightenment. Man mistrusts his own intellectual faculties. He would prefer to begin a retract back to the Middle Ages. Dropout of movements and sects of type have been multiplying. Man seems to want to divest himself of himself. He seeks total surrender and subservience. In one of our magazines, this new wave was characterized thusly. Quote, it involves renunciation of personal intellect, personal opinion of everything which constitutes the foundation of human freedom. It involves voluntary retreat to that human condition referred to by Immanuel Kant as self-inflicted dependency, a retreat to that magical religious befuddled idolatry which the best minds of our Western civilization have resisted for the past 30 years. End quote. Hermann Hesse, who, in contrast to the contemporary Bhagwan pilgrims, was always the drawbacks of his own personal Far East yearnings, referred to in this widespread trend as a, quote, escape from the agony of adulthood, and a, quote, infantile flight back to paradise, an unwillingness to abandon childhood or accept the riddles of the universe and master them, end quote. We as Freemasons must regard these challenges, characterized here only in a few glaring phrases, not only with concern, but also with great new tasks, to which we should devote ourselves with determination. Masonic lodges were the breeding grounds and also the refuge of the monumental movements of the Enlightenment, that human bursting of intellectual bonds, and for all that we possess today in intellectual freedom and progress, we owe a debt of thanks to the 18th century awakening, with all its risks and dangers. None of the spiritual fathers of that human release from intellectual bondage ever promised an awakening in paradise. On the contrary, as the result of the Enlightenment, man first became fully aware of the burden and responsibility imposed upon him by Claude's admonition to go out and subdue the earth. But the true meaning of subdue, in that sense, is you have the responsibility and are appointed as the guardian and protector of your own destiny, as well as that of the earth. The light of pure reason illuminates our temples. We want the man who can perceive, who can grasp and accept the universal order, one who responsibly structures his life with rational humanitarianism, as Thomas Dahler aptly stated at the convent of the United Grand Lodges of Germany 2 decades ago in Hamburg. We want, quote, the person who embodies human dignity, who is ever mindful of his development and his responsibilities toward himself, his family, and the community, who at no time attempts to rid himself of this responsibility but bears it with full awareness, who does not act out of hollow instinct, one who does not sanction cheap incontentions or succumb to untruths, who does not hope for a miracle but believes that God helps those who help themselves. One who knows that the freedoms exist only when defended with determination, courage, honesty, and a power of deeds. End quote. Lodges are places of self-discovery. Freemasons enable one to face up to himself and his capabilities with courage and enhances self-confidence. Lodges of the future will be much more as fellowship associations with customs and some intellectual demands, with the fascination and convincing power of the old rituals, which they will inherit as a result of reforms. They will grow and become stronger, and with the desire for common sense will develop whole new areas in which to confirm their intentions. They will devote themselves to promoting a new human understanding notable for its commitment to self-determination and responsibility. We are not concerned with the limits of growth, but rather with new horizons. As a counterforce to contemporary destructive ideologies, we patiently and persistently offer our age-old concept of building stone by stone. Together, with all the people of goodwill, we will resist giving up hope for a more human world, exactly because the progress has raised so many new questions. We require new forces with faith in the triumph of reason. All right, I think that piece was very interesting. There were concepts there that I struggled with at first when I was reading it, but I think I understand where that Grand Master was coming from. And to think this was written quite a few years ago, just 50 years after World War II. So now comes the point in the show where I'd like to ask you to consider supporting the program. If you head over to our website, wcypodcast.com, we have a few different ways you can do that. You can, of course, click on make a direct donation through PayPal, and when you're there, you can make a one-time donation, or you can set up giving a donation every single month. A monthly contribution. We have a contributor level, a fellow level, and a producer level. That allows you to fund the program, and what that does for everybody else is it keeps the website going. It keeps all of the episodes up and running. It allows us to bring you extras and additional content that is very difficult to come across anywhere else. If you're somebody who would like to get a little something for your money, then consider picking up. We've got just a couple money clips left of the original pin design. Soon, of course, we will have a new pin in stock, and we'll go up with a pre-sale when that comes out. And a couple other ways you can help out are the Mason's Lady car decal. We sell those for $5, and I think your lady will like them. My wife loves hers. It keeps it on the car. And if you click on more, or you hover over more, you'll see a few different links there. The first goes to our buddy and good friend and brother, Levi Banker, Banker's Best. Banker's Best is the premier beard oil balm. He's been in the game for a long time. He has only quality products, and I think you'll all enjoy what he's got to offer. If you use the promo code BBWCY357 at checkout, you're going to get a good percentage off, and Brother Levi is going to send a little bit back to this program to help us out. In addition, he's got a great product that we worked on together, Solomon's Reserve beard oil and balm. 50% of the profits of that come right back to the program. So check that one out also. We've also got On It Labs. If you're curious about trying something like Alpha Brain, click through our links, use the promo code WCY. At checkout, you'll get 10% off, and that usually covers the shipping. What's nice is it's a boost for you. It helps this show. It's a win-win. And last but not least, coming up next month, Intellectual Linear Progression. The Great Books program is going to be starting a new session. Read all about that on our website, wcypodcast.com. Scroll down just a little bit, and right underneath the new book we just wrote, it says the Great Books program, and you can click on that to learn a little bit more. Yes, that's right. Underneath the book. What's the book? I'm sure you guys know already. We wrote a book called Adapting a Corporate Path of Freemasonry. It's business time. And within this book, John Ruark and I go through and we decipher and adapt some very successful, the most successful, I should say, concepts that have turned regular companies into worldwide mega companies that people love. We've adapted these concepts so that they are for Freemasonry, and I think you'll agree it's a wonderful read. We've got it there on Kindle, and we have it in print, and it's also on the iBook store, and it's coming very soon to Audible, so keep your eyes and ears peeled for the news. And just a quick shout out to everybody out there who heard our episode with Amity. If you're not on Amity, go to our website, wcypodcast.com, click on more, then click on Amity. Amity is a really cool app. It allows you to connect and find lodges wherever you are. It's global. It's really amazing stuff. So check it out. Or you can just go to amity.kopiri.com and you'll go right to their website also. So that's it for this week. If you like Masonic podcasts, I know you do, please go ahead and check out the Masonic Roundtable going live every Tuesday at 10/9 Central. If you like reading Masonic articles, then the Midnight Freemasons is your thing. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. New articles every single week. And that's it, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the program this week. Thank you for allowing me to bring you the program, and we'll talk to you all next week. Until then, stay on the level. For Whence Came You, I'm Robert Johnson.
You've been listening to Whence Came You, a Masonic podcast featuring research papers and discussions related to Freemasonry with your host, Brother Robert Johnson. Be sure to join us for our next edition.